Welcome everybody, this is Wargamer Sean. I'm here with you today. This is actually going to be my 101st video. My 100th, I had planned to do something special, but I didn't realize it snuck up on me, and I did a battle report that is going to be my 100th, which is still good. I'm going to do another video soon that talks about the $500 prize prizes that I'm going to be giving out. For my 500 subscriber challenge. But first, we're going to go through the new Codex Imperial Knights, the new Imperial Knight Codex. GW seems to be launching them pretty quickly. We just had Eldar, and now we've got this one. It looks like Adeptus Mechanicus or Cult Mechanicus is going to be next. And then from rumors that I hear, we're going to have Space Marines and potentially Tau and potentially Tzeentch, Demonkin. So, let's get started. So, we have the normal fluff, although not as much as the last time the Imperial Knights came out. They had a couple books. They had a house book, which I got because I'm a pathetic collector, and then they had the actual rule book, which didn't have much. I mean, it had a lot of fluff in it, but it had very few. Like, it had the two mechs that you could knights that you could build at the time, and not really much else you could do with them. There were some warlord traits, and you could have one be a kind of like your sergeant or seneschal or leader that got +1 to its shield strength, so it was 3-up ion shield, which was good, which is why some people took it. But they had FAQ'd that you couldn't take more than 3. And you could only have them as a detachment. You couldn't take, you used to be able to take up to 8 in a primary detachment, but you couldn't take that anymore after 7th edition came out. But now that's changed again. Now the one biggest thing that's changed, which I think it's good because it's been so much of a debate, you know, are Imperial Knights Lords of War? You know, they're super heavy vehicles, but they're not technically Lords of War. Now they are Lords of War. That's how they're classified in this book, so they are Lords of War now. No debating it. Something that has come up in our local group, and it's kind of up for debate, and I know other people are discussing it, is how are we treating escalation now? Escalation was back at 6th edition, and do we follow the rules for all Lords of War, where the benefits are, in case people don't know, is if you're feeling a Lord of War and your opponent's not, your opponent has +1 to seize the initiative, so usually a 5-up instead of a 6-up, and then they get an extra victory point for every 3 hull points or 3 wounds that you do to a gargantuan or super heavy vehicle or Lord of War. Now the debate is, because now they've introduced Lords of War for not just super heavy gargantuan creatures, but also things like Ghazghkull Thraka, who really didn't actually got maybe arguably a little worse than he was last edition, because his cyborg body, you know, lost the invuln save that it used to have, and he lost a little bit of his special abilities. He still got most of them, but I mean, arguably he's not a very good Lord of War. And then you've got things like Drago, Dante. You know, you've got you know, basically everybody that, well, most codices are getting of Lord of War that's not a gargantuan super heavy, like the avatar of Cain for the Eldar is Lord of War. So, do you apply those rules to everybody? Because it almost seems a little unfair for non-super heavy gargantuan creatures to give up a victory point for every 3 wounds. But if you're being fair across the board, you know, is that it? Or is escalation kind of obsolete because they don't really talk about it in 7th edition? All of the rules like Stomp, the D table, the apocalyptic explosion or explosion results, those tables have all changed in 7th edition. So there's a lot of things that are kind of obsolete in the 6th edition escalation. There's still, I guess, a few things that haven't had an update since escalation, but most things have been updated since escalation. So anyway, a little bit of debate, a little bit of a side note, but before they would always like, well, Lords of War don't count on that. Our local group, we had kind of adopted the rule last year that if you're fielding a knight, it counts the same as a Lord of War, so they still give up the victory points. You can get and you can also roll on the Warlord table in escalation that gave you basically benefits to fighting a Lord of War. You know, I guess time will tell with that. You know, I think it's still supported on GW's site, so it's probably still around. So let's go to the Warlord traits for this new codex and talk about the Imperial Knights special rules. Now, the Imperial Knights are unique to particular formations presented in this data sheets. Other more common rules are simply listed by name. These are described in full special rules section of the Warhammer 40k rules. Warlord traits, actually all the Warlord traits in this codex are actually pretty good, or at least decent. Like, there's no bad ones or no duds here, really. So the one is Landstrider. Your Warlord and all friendly Imperial Knights within 12 inches of your Warlord add 1 to the result when rolling the distances they run or their charge distances. So that's helpful. You know, helps you get into charge. It's only 1 inch, but yeah, sometimes that makes a big difference. Favorite of the Omnissiah, this is number 2. Nominate 1 weapon carried by your Warlord. That weapon has the Master Crafted special rule. Note, however, that this cannot be applied to the heirlooms of the knightly houses, which are kind of runic weapons or things. So, a Master Crafted weapon is good. You know, a Master Crafted battle cannon is pretty good. Anyway, Exemplar of the Joust is number 3. Your Warlord rerolls failed to hit rolls in any assault phase in which he successfully charges into close combat. So that's helpful. He's going to get to reroll his hit rolls the first if he initiates the assault, which is good. Cutting Commander, your Warlord and up to D3 other friendly Imperial Knights have the Outflank special rule. That's right. Outflank special rule. Now, I think there was one similar to this in the last codex, but just think about it. Your Warlord in D3, so you potentially have 4 knights that are outflanking. It's pretty amazing. I mean, just having them show up on the, you know, the opponent's side of the board is pretty amazing, and they have a turn to deal with them. It kind of protects these guys, keeps them alive longer. Now, if you're just running one Imperial Knight, there's debate on whether or not you'd really want to do that, because I guess it depends on what you're trying to do. But most people, if you're running one Imperial Knight, the main focus of that Imperial Knight is, if it gets into close combat and does something, that's awesome. But for the most part, it's a fire magnet, and you're hoping that the rest of your stuff gets across the board to do stuff, because they're ignoring it and shooting the Lord of War, the Imperial Knight. So if you outflank it, then your opponent is shooting at all your other stuff that you kind of wanted to protect, getting across the board, while that knight waits a turn or two to come in. So it's a really cool Warlord trait. Whether or not you're going to use it or want to use it is another thing. But most of the time, if you're only running one knight, you're not going to be using a Warlord trait from the Imperial Knights, because it's not really a detachment. Sorry, it's a detachment, but it's not one. It's more of an allied detachment, and we'll go over that soon here. The Iron Bulwark, your Warlord can reroll all failed invulnerable saves of 1. So it's like a little Zinch thing, but they normally have a 4-up, and on a roll of 1, they can reroll it. So it's kind of like a poor man's 3-up save. Number 6 is Knight Seneschal. You add 1 to your Warlord's attack characteristics. Once again, good. I mean, you can't complain about a D weapon having an extra attack. So, all those things are good. I think the Warlord Trait Table is pretty good. The Wargear, the different weapons. There's now an Avenger Gatling Cannon, which is a 36-inch range, Strength 6, AP 3, Heavy 12, Rending. So 12 shots, Rending. Pretty amazing. Strength 6, AP 3. So good against infantry. Iron Storm Missile Pod. That's one of the things that can go up on the back, and they all can take it now, even the Knight Errant and Paladin now. So range 72 inches, Strength 5, AP 4, Heavy 1, Large Blast Barrage. Pretty good. Pretty solid. It's barrage, so it's nice. Unless they're in cover, it's ignoring it. It's AP 4. So Space Marines are still going to get their save, but it's still good. Once again, more of an anti-infantry. And then you've got the Rapid Fire Battle Cannon, which was in the Knight Paladin before. It's range 72 inches, Strength 8, AP 3, Ordnance 2, Large Blast. It's a very solid weapon. It really is. Then there's another back-mounted one, or shoulder-mounted one, which is a Storm Spear Rocket Pod. And that's a 48-inch range, Strength 8, AP 3, Heavy 3. Basically, it's kind of like a missile, crack missile type thing. 3 shots, very solid choice. The thermal cannon was on the Knight Errant before. It's a 36-inch range, Strength 9, AP 1, Heavy 1, Large Blast Melta. So it, basically 18 inches, you're getting 2d6 for armor penetration, which is pretty good. So it's a good weapon. I like it. I like it a lot. I think that the battle cannon's a little better, but my opinion. Then there's a twin-linked Icarus autocannon, which finally the Knights get an answer for Skyfire. It's another back-mounted weapon. It's a 48-inch range, Strength 7, AP 4, Heavy 2, Interceptor, Skyfire, twin-linked weapon. So it's twin-linked, Interceptor, Skyfire. So if something comes on the board, it gets a crack at it before it gets to shoot. And really, if you're going to shoot that weapon, they can still shoot the other ones in the next shooting phase, so no harm, no foul. Melee weapons, Reaper Chainsword, which is Strength D, AP 2 melee, so no change to that one. Thunderstrike Gauntlet, now this one is a Strength D, AP 2, melee, Colossal, and Hurl. So it's a D weapon like the Reaper Chainsword. Colossal, unfortunately, it means a model fighting with this weapon piles in and fights at initiative 1. So you're going pretty slow. You're going at the same time that a Power Fist or a Thunder Hammer or a Claw is going. Now, the thing that you get with it is you get Hurl. If it's not a gargantuan or super heavy vehicle and building, when you destroy it, basically you get to throw it 12 inches, Large Blast, and basically it's a strength which is equal to the toughness value of the monstrous creature, or half the front armor value of a vehicle. So if you throw a Land Raider, it's going to be Strength 7, because it's half of 14. And you round fractions up. It's a little gimmicky. The gauntlet looks really cool, but honestly, like, I'd rather have the Reaper Chainsword, because you're going in initiative 4, and the Hurl thing isn't that. I mean, it's nice, but it's not that great. I don't think it's a good enough trade to go to initiative 1. Honestly, I don't want to be striking in initiative 1. I mean, I'm already going to be going after with these guys. I'm already going to be going after the Wraith Knight, and you're D, so there's, and depending on the Wraith Knight, if the Wraith Knight isn't the close combat variant, he's going to do some damage to you, but he's probably not going to kill you. Even if he gets 2 explosions, they're D3 each. The likelihood of him getting 2 3s isn't great. So, you still are going to have a chance to strike back. And with you having D, you have a better chance because he's not going to have an invuln save, getting a few hits and basically doing, killing him outright. So, I don't know. I mean, I guess the Colossal won't hurt you with a Wraith Knight, but most other things you want to go before, like a Stampa or, other slow weapons. So, I don't know if it's a real fair trade, to be honest with you. The Imperial Knight also has Ion Shields, and when it's deployed, and subsequently each opponent's side's shooting phase, you declare where the Ion Shield's going to be covering, either front, left, right, side, or rear. It has a 4-up invulnerable save against shooting attacks. It does not work in close combat. Now there's a Forge World one that does, but it has special rules with its Ion Shield. So that's the weapons. The Heirlooms of Knightly Houses. There's a banner of Mercurius Triumphant, which is all friendly units with the armies of Imperium faction within 12 inches of the bearer of this banner must re-roll failed morale and pinning checks and fear tests. I don't know why they didn't just comma there instead of doing 2 ands, but it does say you must do it, so you can't choose to fail it. You have to re-roll it when you have this banner there. Now the banner, I think, is 15 points. Look at this quick while I'm reading it. The banner is 10 points. Sorry, 10 points. It's not terrible. It's okay. I mean, I don't know how often it's going to be taken, but maybe. I think it's probably better for like if you're playing allied with Imperial Guard more than like Space Marines that can basically auto rally the next turn. But it might be worthwhile for Space Marines too. Helm of the Nameless Warrior. A model wearing this Helm of the Nameless Warrior has a Rampage special rule. It's not a bad one. It's 30 points though, so it's kind of an expensive upgrade. The Mark of the Omnissiah. The bearer of the Mark of the Omnissiah has the It Will Not Die special rule, and that is 30 points as well. Now, it's nice to have It Will Not Die, but unfortunately, a lot of times when they end up shooting you, if they're going to go after, if whoever has this is going to be one of the characters, they're probably going to go after him and kill him first. I don't know if it's worth 30 points to have It Will Not Die, because your turn, once a time at a 5 or 6, you can regenerate a hull point. I don't know if that's going to really save your bacon for 30 points, but maybe. The next one is Paragon Gauntlet. It's Strength D, AP 2, Melee, Colossal, Hurl, and Mastercrafted. So it's basically the Gauntlet, but just Mastercrafted. And then the next one, and that one, sorry, is 15 points. It's not terrible. Ravager is Strength D, AP 1, and Melee and Honor Fallen. The bearer of the Ravager rerolls failed to hit rolls of 1 in close combat. Now it's basically like the Chainsword, but it's AP 1 instead of AP 2, which is a big deal. That one is 25 points. If it was 10 points or 15 points, I might think about it. For 25 points, I don't know if it's worth rerolling 1s. I mean, an AP 1 with a D weapon. I mean, AP 1's nice, but a D weapon, it's probably going to wreck some stuff anyway. Sanctuary. Sanctuary counts as an ion shield. In addition, the knight equipped with the Sanctuary has a 6-up invulnerable save on each facing that is not covered by the ion shield. And it can't be used in close combat. So it's kind of like a Shield of Faith from Sisters of Battle. On all sides, it doesn't have the ion shield that you choose to have on it. And that one, Sanctuary, is 15 points. You know, honestly, these heirlooms are kind of pricey, and for what you get, I don't think they're necessarily that awesome. I like the Warlord traits, but I'm not that wowed by the heirlooms. Now, I guess if I was going to pick one, I don't know, maybe the Ravager with 25 points, and maybe Sanctuary, because it's only 15 points, and that gives you a 6-up shield on all sides, except not even the ion one, which sometimes the Shield of Faith has been nice, so I could see paying 15 points on a super heavy versus it's usually 5 points extra per vehicle for a sister vehicle that has the Shield of Faith, so I might do it. I've had the 6s save me sometimes, so that one out of all of them was probably the one that I would choose if I was going to choose any. Next, let's kind of cover the detachments, and then we're going to stop here. And in the second video, we're going to go through the different knights in particular. So we're probably going to just do 2 videos for this one, just because it's not a super big codex. So you can choose, there's a couple detachments. There's a household detachment that has 3 Lords of War, 3 knights, and then you have an option of taking 2 more Lords of War, so you can have up to 5. All of the units in this detachment must have Imperial Knights faction. Knight Commander, if this detachment is your primary detachment, you can re-roll the result when rolling on the Warlord tables in the Codex Imperial Knights. Furthermore, when fighting in a challenge, your Warlord re-rolls fail to hit rolls. So that's pretty cool, because you know, he just automatically has re-roll to hit rolls, and that's all the time. So that's better than the Warlord trait. So it's a pretty good command benefit, to be honest. It's even better. I mean, it's like I'd take that as a Warlord trait instead of rolling on it, to be honest with you. The Lord Baron in this detachment is your primary. If this detachment is your primary detachment, your Warlord has a vehicle super heavy walker character unit type and can choose to select 1 item from the heirlooms of the knightly houses list at the points cost shown that we just went over. Furthermore, add +1 weapon skill and ballistic skill to the characteristics of your Warlord. That's good, you know. Weapon skill 5, ballistic skill 5. pretty good. It'd be nice if they made an initiative plus 1 too, but we can't have everything. Objective secured. This is a kicker here. This household detachment. This is what makes it awesome, and it helps the knights out a little bit because they need it for Maelstrom missions. All units in this attachment have objective secured special rule. A unit with this special rule controls an objective even if an enemy unit, a scoring unit, is within range, unless that one also has the same objective secured rule. So not very many detachments in the books have come with objective secured. Almost all of them are just the primary CAD, and so you have to kind of trade. Do you want the extra benefits like the Dicurian detachment, which is nice, and you lose OBSEC? But this one is actually a special detachment that comes with OBSEC. I mean, this is an awesome for detachment, and even if it's not your primary, you still get objective secured, because the other ones say if this attachment is your primary detachment. But this one, the objective secured, just says they all have it, even if it's not the primary detachment, which is nice. So I think household detachment you're going to see a lot of, to be honest with you, if people are playing 3 Imperial Knights. Now, Oathsworn detachment is 1 compulsory knight, and then up to 2 more. Now, this detachment cannot be taken as your primary detachment. So it's basically, it's almost like, I wish they would do this for Harlequins and for Skitarii. You know, this is kind of your option of having an allied force, an allied detachment. It's basically what it is. It's giving you like, hey, take this as an allied detachment. So this can't be your primary detachment, and all units in this detachment must have the Imperial Knights faction. And then command benefits are none. So basically, you're getting the detachment just to take the knights. You're not getting any extra benefits at all with them. But you can take 1 knight if you want to, just like you used to be able to. So I think it's kind of a fair trade and cool. It's like an allied attachment. Now, let's go through the formations that are in this book. And there's quite a few of them. And I had a discussion with a friend of mine named Chris, and he asked me, and I was thinking the same thing, asking, is Adamantium Lance still a thing? And I think it still would be, honestly, because it's been in a White Dwarf. It's on GW's site, unless it's been taken down recently, which I haven't seen. I haven't looked today. And it's also in the Red Wog supplement. So I think it's still viable. Now, it specifically says in that Adamantium Lance that you have to take either Knight Errant or Paladin. So you can't even take any of these new knights. But I still don't see why it wouldn't be a possible formation, to be honest with you. And it's 3 knights. So I think you can still do it. It's not in this book. And it doesn't say, you know, there's some things that are similar in this book. But I would assume that it's still viable and playable. At least with our group, unless people have a huge objection to it, I don't see taking that away. And I think it has its pros and cons. The problem with Adamantium Lance is that you have to kind of stay within 4 inches of each other to benefit from the things that the Adamantium Lance gives, which is reroll ion saving throws, and reroll charge distances. And honestly, 3 knights that are a huge point sink, you know, like just below or right over 1,000 points, it's going to be tough. You know, playing Maelstrom missions with having those 3 together. And if you got a lot of like debris or basically, you know, things on the board as terrain, it's going to be difficult to do that too. So it has its pros and its cons. So as far as formations here, Exalted Court. This one is 5 Imperial Knights of any type. So you have to take 5, and it can be any type. This is the Council of the Lords. All models in this formation have the Vehicle Super Heavy Walker character unit type, and they can each choose to select from the heirlooms of knightly houses at the point cost shown. Furthermore, before deployment, nominate 1 model in this formation to be the High King or Princeps of the knightly house. Add 2 to the model's weapon skill, ballistic skill characteristics, and add 1 to any invulnerable saving throw. This makes this model makes for its ion shield. So this is kind of making like the Seneschal from the last codex. So you're basically getting the king, and he gets +1 to his ion shield, which is nice. So 3-up ion shield, and he's going to be weapon skill. He's going to be 6, which is pretty amazing. With 6, if you miss, you get to reroll, and on a 6, still hit if it's not a template weapon. So that's pretty amazing. With with a weapon skill of 6-2, it's going to be pretty dandy in close combat. I mean, most things are not 6, so you're going to be striking at 3, and you need 3s to hit, which is pretty nice. And everybody else gets +1 to their weapon skill, so they're basically kind of like weapon skill 5, which is good too. So like the whole formation is good. If this formation is your primary detachment, you can re-roll the results when rolling on the Warlord table for Imperial Knights. Furthermore, when fighting a challenge, your Warlord re-rolls failed to hit rolls. So that's like our, detachment, our first detachment, the household detachment, where you get to re-roll failed to hit rolls. This guy gets to do the same thing. Now it's a 5 Imperial Knight tax, but still, it's a really good formation. The next one is the Baronial Court, and this is 3 to 5 knights. The Onyx Shield Wall, and this is kind of like Adelance. As long as the Imperial Knight from this formation is within 6 inches of one or more of the other Imperial Knights from this formation, you add +1 to any invulnerable saving throws made for its Ion Shield in the front arc. So it's just the front arc, but for the front arc, you basically become a 3+ versus a 4-up. So it's a little nerfed down, Adelance. Knight Commander, and if this detachment is your primary detachment, you can re-roll results when rolling on the Warlord's table, Codex Imperial Knights. Furthermore, when fighting a challenge, your re-roll failed to hit rolls, so just like the other two. Knightly Vassals. The formation's Baron, and all Imperial Knights in this formation within 12 inches of him have the counterattack special rule, which is good. And, here's a real kicker, can fire Overwatch even though they are super heavy walkers. So basically, you get to blast them with all the weapons you have and do Overwatch if you're within 12 inches of the Baron. That's pretty dang good. Especially since some of them come with flamers now. And, well, any of the other weapons, man, that's still pretty good. Now, the sucky thing is, any blast weapon, which unfortunately is like your thermal and your battle cannon, isn't going to be able to fire Overwatch because it's a blast, so they can't fire Overwatch. Only the template and the regular shooting weapons. Now, there's some other weapons that are 12 shots and all that stuff. That's still going to be able to fire, which is pretty good. And the stubbers. The Lord Baron, before deployment, nominate one model from this formation to be the formation's Baron. This model has the character special rule, and he can choose to select from the heirlooms of knightly houses list at the point cost shows. Furthermore, he adds +1 to weapon skill characteristics in this model. Added bonus. So I think the Baronial Court's pretty good. The Tripartite Lance. Now this one has to be a Knight Warden, a Knight Gallant, and a Knight Crusader. All models in this formation must be fielded as a single unit, even though it is not normally allowed. When each knight is destroyed, they count as separate unit for victory point purposes. So you still get separate victory points. This is where I wonder if you still get, for every 3 hull points, still get victory points, because it doesn't really mention that here. It just talks about you get a victory point for destroying each knight. So I don't know. War Triad. Each knight in this formation has an effect on the other models in the formation as described below. These effects last until the associated model is completely destroyed. So the Knight Warden gives Withering Fire. Enemy units count as their cover save being 1 point lower than normal against shooting attacks from the models in this formation, which is good. Knight Gallant, Wrathful Onslaught. All models in this formation inflict D3 Hammer of Wrath hits instead of 1. Okay, that's okay. Knight Crusader, Precision Bombardment. Blast weapons fired by models in this formation gain the Twin Link special rule. That's pretty dang nice. Can't complain about that one, honestly. So, I don't know, you know, I like this one. I don't know how much you're going to see it unless it's really big games, because once again, it depends on what your local meta and tournaments are. But if you're playing a lot of Maelstrom missions, these guys having to stick together as a unit, so they have to be within 4 inches of each other, is going to limit how much they can do in the battle. So they're not going to be able to cover as much ground or as many objectives. So I don't know if you're going to see this one that often. Maybe in fun games. The next formation is a Gallant Lance. It's 3 Knight Gallants, so they're basically the close combat guys. They have the special rule of full tilt, so Knights from this formation re-roll failed charge distances, which is good for a close combat Knight. They also have Crusader and Rage. It's like, wow. And so even though they're part of a formation, they're all separate units, so they're going to be outnumbered most of the time, unless you're just attacking one thing. So Crusader and Rage is really going to help. They're going to get +2 attacks for Rage and D3 for Crusader. Pretty dang nice. And their base attacks is 3, but they have 2 close combat moments, so they start out at 4. So they're going to have 6 on the charge guaranteed, and then plus D3 most of the time. That's pretty amazing. I mean, that's pretty awesome. I like that one. I don't know how often you're going to see it, but I like that one. They're cheap Knights, cheaper Knights, I should say. The Sky Reaper Lance. This one is 3 Imperial Knights of any type, and all units must take the Twin-Linked Icarus Autocannon Carapace weapon option. They have the Sky Reaper special rule. When targeting enemy flyers, Knights from this formation reroll failed armor penetration rolls and can choose to reroll glancing hits in an attempt to instead get penetrating hit, but the second result must be kept. Furthermore, when targeting enemy flying monstrous creatures, Knights from this formation reroll failed to wound rolls. I wish GW, since they know there's flying gargantuan creatures now, would just say flying monstrous and gargantuan creatures, because some people argue, well, it doesn't work against flying gargantuan creatures. I think it should, but I think it's stupid that they don't say that, since there are separate wordings now. So that is all the formations in this book. I think we're going to stop here, and we'll go over the Knights and this individual Knights in the next codex. Hopefully you enjoyed this. And if you haven't subscribed, I would definitely invite you to subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to get to 500 subscribers by the end of this year, which hopefully I can. If you enjoy the content, you can check out the other videos that I make. I do a lot of going through codices and tactics and video battle reports too. So hope you enjoyed, and keep on wargaming.
Goodbye. 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 Bye-bye. Goodbye. See ya. Bye for now. Bye for now. Goodbye. I like bottoms.